where we're going to be looking at some phrases, and I want to show you what it's like if you are in my class. So let's use the topic of introducing ourselves in a professional setting. So we know a lot of the time when you're in a business, you're going to a business, you're very nervous, and you don't want to be nervous because you want to be confident, you want to be easy to speak to, you want to be able to respond and listen and be able to talk about yourself in a great way. So when you introduce yourself, let's start with introducing our names, for example. So you can always say, my name is, and definitely say your first name and surname. And talk about your position. So you could say, maybe you're new to the area. Say, I'm new to this industry. Or you could say, I have been in this field of work for quite some time now, so it's very interesting to me to always meet new people. Always talk about your position. Where are you at with your studies? Maybe that's a good thing. Oh, I've just graduated. I've just finished learning something. Any detail about your experience, and making yourself sound really friendly is great. So it's showing friendliness in your workplace. How about how to make a polite request at work? So maybe we need to ask for something at work, and we don't want to sound too rude when we ask for something. So we could start by using the verb could. So could is always a more polite way than just I want. So you could say, could I please have that report? Or could you please email me some information? Would you be able to help me? Would you be able to show me where the files are located? Would you be able to anything? You could add please, of course, which makes it polite, and always show appreciation at the end. Like, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate what you have shown me. I really appreciate the information that you've given me. I really appreciate you helping me in this. So always show appreciation when someone has helped you. Expressing our opinions, really good. So when we're in a workplace, we need to show or give someone what we think, our opinions. So we can start with phrases like, in my opinion, very simply, or from my experience, or from what I know, is a great way to show your opinion. Feel free to write in the chat and with any questions that you may have. You could also give your suggestions by saying, I would like to suggest, or even more politely, may I give my thoughts on that, or may I tell you what I think? So again, very polite to say what you want to suggest. And showing, you're trying to contribute, you're trying to help. So we can give feedback now. Imagine that you need to tell someone what your thoughts are on something, because you're giving feedback. It could be good or bad. So you could start with something like, I really liked how you handled this situation, or it was really inspiring to see you do this. So again, that's in a positive way. But then, as I said, we want to kind of give feedback. So you give a positive comment first, but then you need to say, however, I might have done this differently. Or instead of that, you could have done this. So again, you're just being polite without being too rude in telling someone a feedback, what they need to change or do. How to apologize in the workplace. So sometimes you may be in the wrong position. You may have done something wrong or something, and you need to apologize for what mistake has happened. So we can show that we're sorry for something instead of always saying, I'm sorry. You can explain the issue. So and offer a solution. So for example, I'm sure to complete it by tomorrow. I apologize, I didn't do this correctly, or I apologize, I misunderstood the task. So we're talking about apologizing if we have made a mistake. You could say, I'm sorry, I didn't get it. I'm sorry, I misunderstood something. I'm sorry that I did something wrong. And then always offer a solution. So would it be okay if I could redo it? Or you could say something like, could I send it to you again later this week? Or I'm going to work on it and then I'll resend it to you. So again, showing that you are going to do a solution and by a time when. So always say when. How about how to politely decline a request? So sometimes you need to, tell someone that you don't accept something that they've offered you. So how do you politely do that without being too rude? So you can say something like, I'm sorry, I'm afraid I cannot accept that. Or I'm so sorry, I won't be able to join that meeting later tonight. Or I'd love to help you, but unfortunately I have something to do later today. So without just saying no, because you'll sound too rude if you just say no. So you want to use other words, kind of thanking the person first, but then rejecting what they have said and saying why. Most of the time you may say, because I need to do something, or I need to prepare something later, or I have work later. So it could be something like that. How do you ask for clarification? So maybe you're not understanding something. How do you ask someone to, instead of just saying, can you please repeat that? We don't want to keep saying that, especially when you're learning English. You don't want to keep saying, sorry, I don't understand. Sorry, can you repeat that? So other ways that we do that, if something isn't clear, that means you don't understand it. You don't want to keep saying, can you please repeat that? I don't understand. You could say something like, I'm afraid I didn't get what you said. So using that word get, I'm afraid I didn't get, instead of saying I didn't understand or I don't know. You could say, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understood what you said. So there's a lot of words that we can use instead of just saying again, I don't understand or I don't know. You could say, could you give me an example, because I seem to not be understanding what you're saying. Or could you please give me an idea, or show me something. Can you please show it to me, because I'm having trouble understanding it. So again, showing clarification to avoid making a mistake. So you're just politely saying you didn't understand something and that you want to ask for clarification. So how do we confirm details professionally? So maybe someone has told you that they want to meet at a certain time. How do you confirm that? So a lot of the time in English we use words like just checking in, just making sure that we're still meeting at 2 o'clock, or just confirming our appointment later this week. Or you could say just checking in, just seeing how you're going with the time. How about, how do we introduce ideas in a meeting? So sometimes you are needing to give your thoughts, you need to give ideas. Well, you could say, you need to make a strong impression, because the more that you are showing that you're giving your thoughts, the more that you look like that you're interested in your workplace, or maybe you're just speaking to a friend. So you want to have thoughts, you want to have your opinions. You don't just want someone to ask you and you're just saying, oh, I don't know, I'm not sure. So always try and come up with something to say. So you could say, that sounds really interesting. Now, even if you don't have an opinion just yet, you could say, but I might need to think about it more. You could say, that's really interesting. I'm going to look into it further. Or you could say, that's very, very interesting. So again, we always put that interesting part because it lets your mind think of the next words that you want to say. So always say to someone, that you're finding what they're saying is interesting. It's intriguing. And then you could just appreciate what they're saying. Say, that's really interesting. I appreciate your thoughts on that. Or that's really interesting. That's really interesting. I'd like to hear more about that. I'd like to find out more things about that. I'd like to get more information about it. How about maybe you need to schedule a meeting. So you need to say to someone, do you want to meet? Now, instead of just in English saying, let's meet or let's catch up, we can use casual ways, yes, but let's put it a bit more professionally. So especially in a workplace and you need to set a date with someone, you could say, hey, let's set up a meeting, very simply. Or you could say, hey, let's book in a date to do something. Or you could say, would you be free this weekend? You could say, would you be available? Is a very good word to say. Would you be interested in organizing a time where we can go over whatever? So again, just a bit more professional ways, but let's casualize it. How do we tell someone that we want to meet with them in a casual way? A lot of the time we use let's catch up. Let's catch up over coffee and talk about whatever. Or we say let's meet up. Or let's get together. Let's get together and discuss what we're doing, whatever. Let's get together and discuss whatever topic. Or just very simply, let's get together and do some work on our project. Let's get together is a really great phrase. So how about polite ways to remind someone at work? So maybe you need to remind someone to do something. You could say, without sounding too pushy. So you don't want to sound too bossy, too mean, too rude. You could say, oh, this is just a quick reminder about our meeting later. Or this is a quick, this is just a quick follow-up to check in on whatever topic. Or did you hear about this? Were you aware of? So when you say to someone, were you aware of, that means you're reminding them of something, but without being too rude. So did you know? It's like the same as saying, like, did you know? Were you aware of our meeting this Friday? Or very simply, ask them, hey, are you going to the meeting on Friday? So it's a great way, instead of just being rude and telling someone that you have a meeting, you could just say simply that. Or just a quick message to say, see you on the weekend, or see you on Friday for our meeting. How about if you need to ask for feedback at your work? So today we're talking about work situations, and I will be doing a more casual one in a second. To finish off, how to ask for feedback. So maybe you want other people's opinions. You could say, what are your thoughts on, to someone? So if I ask someone, instead of just saying, what do you think? I can say, what are your thoughts on whatever topic? Or have you had a chance to think about whatever? You could say, could you let me know if you want me to change anything? Or could you point out anything that I need to know or change. Those are the phrases that we can use. Again, showing that you want feedback from someone. So you want someone to give you their thoughts, or what are their opinions on something? What are their ideas on something? Very interesting, how to negotiate your work schedule. So maybe you're at work and you need to change the time that you're working. So you can email your boss or speak to your employer and say, I need to change my hours for this Friday. Is it possible? So we don't want to be rude by just saying that this is going to happen. You need to politely show that you need to change, but then ask, is it possible? Or as simply, is it okay with you? Could I cancel my meeting on Friday? Is that possible? Would that be okay? Very polite way to show that you care. Not just you're telling someone you need to cancel your meeting or change your meeting, but asking them, is that okay? Would that be okay? That's a great way to show that, showing respect. Okay, so let's go into talking about more casual phrases. So if you write in the comments, what area do you struggle with when you're in casual conversations? So if you give me something, I'll be able to respond. This is live, so you'll get, as you see, I'm a native English teacher, so you're getting very natural conversations that are common. You don't want to be, learning English, but not from a native person. As native as you can get, it's going to sound more fluent and as soon as possible, because you don't want to be learning mistakes or learning a phrase from someone who's not a native English speaker, because then you'll be stuck with it. So that's why we have lessons for English that I do for general English, maybe your business, or it could be anything with your English for any reasons. Maybe it's your work life, your personal life. If you have a native speaker like me, I will give you the common phrases that's real. And make sure that your mistakes, you're not saying words that make you sound very awkward or make you sound less like a native English speaker. So it's always good to have lessons, get lessons, and make sure that you're seeing where you're going wrong with your English. Where do you need to, fix up your English? Because you might speak English fine, but it's not sounding very native-like, or you're never kind of improving with your English. Okay, so let's get into more casual tips that I'm giving you today. So with some casual tips, again, we're using our English in a way without it sounding too formal now, because we're not in the workplace or a professional place. We're in casual situations. And small talk is something that's really important as a native English speaker. Small talk means it's like a little conversation and very general. So when you meet someone, the weather is probably the most common thing you can always talk about, and how their day is. So let's start with how their day is. So you could simply say, how was your day so far? Or if it's at the end of the day, did you have a great day? Did you have a busy day today? What did you get up to? What have you done? So, is there a chapter playlist on part of the speech? Playlist on part of the speech? No, I don't have parts of the speech. But I can give you a quick lesson on parts of the speech. Are you talking about like your nouns, your verbs, your pronouns, and all of those? And as I wait for your response, we're talking about small talk. As a native English speaker, we love to talk about asking about how someone's day is, and we like to talk about the weather. So what are phrases that we can say when we're talking about the weather? We can say, wow, it's so hot today. Or how are you handling this heat? So let's imagine it's a hot day. We'll start with the hot weather. You could say, are you enjoying this heat? A lot of people say, are you surviving this heat that's out there? Are you enjoying this weather? How are you finding this weather? Is it too hot for you? That's very common. Now, say it's really cold. You could say, how cold is it outside? My God, it's freezing. This weather's so bad. It's so cold lately. So again, whether it's hot weather or cold weather. Yes, so eager, I don't have parts of the speech. I have a lot of, if you look at my playlists, you'll see ones where my lessons, there's a lot of grammar in there. So you'll find those parts of the speech, whether it's looking at your verb, putting it into the past, present, future, or looking at your nouns, looking at your prepositions, your on, in, by, at, or maybe you're looking at words that types of grammar that could do with just sentence structure, then that's all in my playlist. So you'll see it there just under the lessons. Let's talk about how are you? This is a very common one. A lot of the time you'll notice that you're probably using how are you a bit too much. And it kind of gets a bit boring and it's not very native-like, because native speakers, we don't always say, how are you, how are you, how are you. We like to use different phrases. So we like to say, how's it going? What's been happening? And again, it depends how well you know the person, or maybe you've just met them. So let's talk about first with friends. You don't want to always say, how are you to a friend. You want to use other phrases like, how's it going? How's your day so far? What's been happening? What's new? So maybe you haven't seen them in a while. You can say, what's new? What's interesting? What has been going on? Or maybe just about their weekend. How was your weekend? So again, you don't need to go to the how are you all the time. As a native English speaker, when you already know your friend, you're not saying how are you all the time. How are you is a bit more used for people that you've just met. And again, even as a native English speaker, if I get asked how are you, it's a very simple, good, how are you? So we don't give too much of, I'm very well, thank you, how are you? Again, very formal. Or, I'm great, thank you, how are you? Sounds very formal. As a native English speaker, you just say, good, thanks, yourself. So very common, we keep it short, and then we put back the question on the person. So now you know lots of other phrases instead of how are you. Write down one that you found interesting that you haven't used. Was it what's interesting? What's been happening? What's going on in your life recently? Where have you been? Long time no see. That's not very common. Native speakers don't use that one. We use it maybe as a joke. If we haven't seen someone for a very long time, but again, we use lots of other words, like, where have you been? So we actually say, where have you been? Haven't seen you in so long. Yeah. So that was using how are you. So anyone wants to write any comments of a phrase that they just learnt new instead of just saying how are you all the time? If not, let's go to, maybe you're in a conversation or in a situation and you're angry. What English phrases can you use when you're angry, but without just showing that you're angry, or, without sounding too rude? So it can happen a lot of the times where we're frustrated. Maybe someone has said something to us and it made us upset, or it made us not feel good. Then we don't want to be angry. We don't want to use angry words. We want to say something like, I'm sorry, but what you said kind of hurt my feelings. Or you could say, so we always kind of apologize first. It's interesting we apologize, but that's again to just sound polite. So we say, I'm sorry, your words have really hurt me. So even we can use that phrase, your words have really hurt me. Or, I'm sorry, what you said is incorrect, is not right. So using that part by saying I'm sorry and then quickly showing how you're feeling is a nice way to show that that you're frustrated, you're kind of angry at what someone has said, but without showing that you're angry. Another phrase that we could use is you can just say the word, I'm sorry, what you've said has made me a little angry. So again, we say a little angry. Or what you've said has not sat well with me. Now, this is a very hard one for non-natives. So it's, I'm sorry, but what you've said has not sat well with me. So it just means that, I didn't like it. I didn't like what you said. But again, we're trying to be polite and telling someone that they've said something that we don't really feel good about. If you have any topics that you would like, write it in the chat box. This is your opportunity to get some native, ways of saying things. In what situation? Maybe you're frustrated, as what I talked about now, or simple greetings, or how to apologize, or how to, decline an invitation, or tell someone you can't be somewhere or see them. Let's talk about when we're uncertain. So a lot of the time, as when you're learning English, you might be saying, I don't know, I'm not sure. Probably more, I don't know. You don't want to keep saying, I don't know, I don't know. So instead, use words like, yes. So you'll see in my general English classes, it's more grammar actually. So the ones that are in my playlist is more grammar, but in my class, when you sign up, you'll get more conversation, and it will cover how to use all the grammar, but more in a conversation way, as well as anything really. Like the classes are where you can not just sit and listen, but you get to ask and tell me where you want me to help you with your English. So that's why you'll see I have a lot of videos of my classes, but again, you can watch all of them. That's great. That's where you'll learn a lot of grammar. But to get into a class with me, where I'm giving one free class, that's where it's more conversational and you telling me where you want me to help you with your English. So the lesson can change a lot from grammar, maybe to this. It just depends what you need help with. So how to politely redirect a conversation. Sometimes when we're speaking to someone, maybe we don't like the topic and we don't want to be rude and say, I'm not interested in that, or that's a boring conversation. So how do we change the direction of the conversation, but in a nice way? Again, we always want to be polite in English. We don't want to be rude. Speaking English is it's a very kind language, especially with people when you're very close to them, or even if you're meeting someone new. We always use a very polite way of speaking. So again, maybe someone said something and you're not that interested in what they're talking about. You can say, that's interesting. I need to look up more information about it. So maybe you don't want to tell them exactly what you think. You could say, yeah, I have to do my research. I have to find out more about that. I'm not too sure yet, but I need to find out some more. Now, you want to change the topic. So you could say things like, well, speaking of, and then say the topic. So for example, maybe you want to talk about the weather instead of the topic that they're talking about. You could say, well, speaking of the weather, did you see how it was like the storm that came by a few days ago, or whatever? Just change the topic to the weather by saying, speaking about the weather, or speaking of the weather. Another way to change the topic, you could say, on a related note. So again, someone is talking and you're not really interested in that topic, or you're finding it boring, or for some reason you need to change the conversation, then you can say, On a related note, let's talk about then whatever the next topic is. And the last one for today, let's talk about how to make your conversations more smooth and politely. So when you're ending a conversation, let's go to now. We've maybe caught up with our friends, we've seen our friends, and you want to end the conversation because you need to leave, but you don't want to sound rude. So when we end a conversation, we could say, it was so great to see you. So always give a positive first before saying, I need to go. So you could say, it was so great to see you. It was really good to catch up with you. It's good to hear that you're doing so well. It's been amazing to see you. It's been amazing spending this time with you. It's been a pleasure to get to know you. So maybe if it's a bit more formal, you don't know the person, then you can say, so you've shown a positive note, then you need to say, but I need to rush off, or but I really need to go now, or I should head off now. So when you say head off, that means you need to go. So that was the end of our lesson. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon. Remember, we've got a free class, so get into that free class to see what a lesson would be like. General English, we've got business skills and PTE. So see you all very soon.